Good morning and welcome back to day 2 on track 1 of Python Web Conference. I am joined right now with Annette Lewis, who's a senior developer over at 6 Feet Up, and she's going to talk to us about insane customization tricks for Plone, and I will let her take it away. Feel free to ask your questions in the Slido. I'll also be watching the Slack channel track, and I'll try and make sure I get those over to our speaker of the day. All right, Annette, take it away.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to my talk, Insane Customization Tricks about Plone. So, as said, I'm Annette, a developer at 6 Feet Up. I've been using Plone since 2013. I'm actually pretty new to 6 Feet Up. I only got here in March, but it's been a lot of fun. But before I get straight into all the things about Plone, I want to just tell people a little bit about myself. So, my initial interest in the website started way back in the day, and I was just like, I'm going to make a website. I'm going to learn HTML. I'm going to start putting stuff together. And that's where my internet history started. But then after that, I got a bachelor's, completely unrelated, pre-medicine. But I lived near IT people, so I still had that IT influence in my life. And then afterwards, I got a master's, still completely unrelated. But I still managed websites in my spare time. So you go through the path, and I'm thinking, what is Plone? And in 2013, that was the same question I had. It was the first time I'd ever seen it. I was looking at job postings and they mentioned Plone. I'd never heard about it, even though I did websites, and was just like, how did I miss this? How, of all the things I've heard about, had I not heard about this technology before? So opened a web engine and said, okay, what is Plone? And it brought me a wealth of information, some overwhelming, but I think I picked up the key things I needed to know then. And that was, Plone was a content management system, developed since 2001 actively, so like 20 years. And it was used by a huge variety of organizations. And I figured, okay, that's enough for me to get an idea of what's going on. So moving forward, this is where my Plone story really began. Spoiler, I got the job. And I started simply as just a web content migration specialist, which is a great term for I copy and paste things from one place to the other. But then I ended up in an organization where we were migrating over 100 websites in Plone with full design, full content migration, theming, and training for the client. So we were doing a lot of work. And I was given my first Plone site to theme and put together within a month of me being there. And I was able to do it. And I was really surprised about that we could do so many creative, bespoke things without really touching the core code base. And we had 13 production installations of Plone that were going to support these 100 sites as we brought them over. So then over time, I got a job upgrade. They started trusting me. I was starting to make decisions. I was getting comfortable with Plone. And now my current job, Plone and I are pretty good friends. We get along really well. We understand each other and we have a good mutual understanding. But really kind of going back, my first impressions were just that this is pretty simple. I came from the CMS world of PHP a lot, Drupal, CMS, Joomla, WordPress, where you gotta search for that admin panel and then find the content section and then find where you put in the content. And when I got to Plone and you hit the page and you just hit edit, and you hit edit and you edit the page, that was crazy to me. Or the menus just auto-generated. I didn't have to go drag and drop them all into place and make sure they're displayed, and like all these little features and configurations. So I said, this is really interesting. But still, I'm just like, okay, great. I have an inkling, but what really is Plone? I was able to get installations, I was able to do things, but what was it? And some of the things that I feel you commonly come across when you're starting with a new CMS is you're thinking, how do I install it? What code base? What language? And I never really heard about Python before Plone. So that was a 2-for, is like, oh, new information. And you think, well, I just want another site. It shouldn't be that hard. Or the designs and the visuals. What templating language do I have to learn? How do I get things to move around the page? Can't I just pick a couple colors and get that going? All the setup panels, where do I find it? How do I dig through? Where is this? Why is everything so long? And what do I do next? How do I use this? How quick can I get there? How can I just modify a couple of things? And especially with having to train so many people in departments, I think I built 50 to 60 sites before I left my previous employer, and I trained at least one person for each one of those sites, sometimes in groups of 13, sometimes one-on-one. And when I'm building something or when I'm developing something, I always have the same personal goal. I want my users to feel empowered. It's their website and they can take control of it. And out of the box, Plone does a pretty good job of letting you do lots of website running, making it easy to get something up and done. But there's that little extra that somebody always wants to add to it to make that site your own and personalize it. So I'm going to go through a couple of the tricks that I like and a couple of the things that I really wish I had known when I started building Plone, and little things to make it easier to start taking control of your site. So I'm going to build a sample blog. And now let's go to my coding. There we go. So I've got some clean Plone installs, and if y'all could chime in the chat, I'm just curious, what is people's experience with Plone? Have we heard of Plone before? Have we never heard of Plone before? Are you just starting to kind of get interested? And I'm going to kind of gauge what I talk about based on how that goes. But all right, let's get on to making my little site. And I think the first thing anyone ever wants to do when they get a site is set the site title and put a site logo up there. So I'm going to just use side by sides. And one thing I liked is this toolbar here, which you can expand it and you can get the names. I thought it was crazy to have a toolbar that just follows me on the site when I first started. So I was excited about it. But more importantly, there's a nice site setup area that has a nice set of panels that just has everything I felt I needed to get started. And the site has a site panel, which is great because now I'm going to make my site. And if anyone was on the evening social last night, you may have seen my bird doing a camera photo bombing. So I'm going to make the bird corner all about birds, and I'm going to add a site logo. And I've got a couple logos here I already prepared. Let me add that. Just going to upload that there. I'll leave the rest of this alone. I'm like, okay, I've got a logo, and then my site has a site title. It's called Bird Corner. Well, let's do the Bird Corner so they match. Save that again. So I'm like, okay, now at least I feel like I've gotten through step one, but if we're gonna make a blog, we're gonna need a blog. I'm gonna add a folder here, and I really like that the content types are built in for you already, and they're named, I feel, to what I would understand. One thing that got me with Plone in the very beginning is that there was a folder type and a page type. Back in the HTML land, you know, you would just put a folder and then you would just make your menu structure and you put it together so anything could live wherever you want it. So I always think, oh, it's just like a computer. I can like make little areas and I nest them like folders, and that made a lot of sense to me and things were easy to find. All right, so I've got Bird blog, and now you would add your first post, but I don't feel like a news item is quite what I want. I would really like a blog post item, because eventually when I get my users in here, they're going to think I want to add a blog post to a blog. So site setup, and I really love making custom content types. Here at this dexterity, there's a whole content panel, and this is where you can make your custom content types. Now, I already know that the news item is pretty close to what I want. I won't go into exactly what's in it now because we'll see it on the other side, but I'm going to clone that. And then I'm going to call this one a blog post and add that. So now I've got a blog post item, and semantically, that's always great because I think blog post is a separate item. People know to add that when they want to do something. So going into editing this now, you can see that you get a couple of settings. So this, I can have a description, but I'm really interested in these fields right here. and it's already got the title, description, because I copied the news post. It has most things that I want. For the fun of it, I'm just gonna add a new field, and let's call it type of post. And now you can drag and drop and choose what type of field you'd like to add. So in this case, I'm just gonna go with the multiple choice, because I want them to be able just to select amongst the things which type that they like. And oops, my OK button's a little too far over there. All right, so I'm gonna add this. So now I've got this new field right here. It pops up right through the web. It's that easy. And then I can go ahead and hit settings. And since it's about birds, I think I might have some announcements. I might have a general post, but most importantly, I'm gonna have my featured bird post. And I'll just do extras, just so I have my bases covered, and save that. Oops. Whoops, I put it in the description box. There we go, possible values. Okay, so I'm seeing these responses on Plone. So we've got a variety of experience here. So now I've made my blog post. Let's go back to my bird blog. And now I can add my blog post, and I don't have to restart. It shows up right there and then, so it's that easy to get a new custom item going. And now I'm gonna make a post here. I've got a little bit of text on the side, so I can copy and paste this a little bit faster. 45 minutes. It's not a lot of time to drop all of your knowledge in something. So we're gonna call this the Daily Bird Post. And I think the people are here just to see the birds, so I just want to upload an image. I'll upload it right there. Now there's a great drag and drop editor, so I've actually got some pictures prepared off to the side here, so I don't have to expose you to my desktop. And let's get my cardinal floof, and I'm going to upload this. And that way I can insert this image right into there. And I think that's all they need to know about this post. So I'm going to save that. I've skipped some things, but there's my types of post. And there we go. So I've got my first blog post, but now I've got some pictures in here, and this isn't looking too organized anymore. So this is a great opportunity to take advantage of some of Plone's content rules. And what's neat about the content rules is you can use this to tell Plone to do something for you or organize something for you so it lands in the right place. This is really great if you have a large organization and every once in a while you get a client that uploads that image or PDF right at the top level and it ends up right in the navigation and they wonder why. You know, organizational chart is next to home, undergraduate, and graduate students. So I'm gonna head over to site setup. Back in that content section and that content rules. And now I can add a new content rule. So I'm going to call this one move blog images to folder. And this is going to be triggered on an object being added to a container. So basically when you upload something, Plone's going to say, okay, I need to do something with this. I'm going to enable it and I'm going to have it stop processing other rules because you can have multiple rules once you get through. So go ahead and save that. So that was just the first step because you make the rule and now I've got to say, okay, what is this rule going to apply to? So this is going to be for a content type and it's going to be for my images because that's what I want to move, just the images. And then my action, and I want it to move it to a folder. Well, now I'm a step short because where am I going to move this to? Well, I'm going to go back into Blur blog, just refresh here as I'm going through, and just add a new folder. Bird images. Now, keeping in mind, once again, Plone will auto-generate your menu. So If you don't want something to show up in your menu, in this case, I don't want people to just be able to look at my bird images folder, you can actually exclude it from the navigation. It's just a handy thing. I always remember if I don't want it to show up, go to settings and exclude it from navigation. So, all right, now I've got my bird images folder. And let me see, now I'm gonna add move to folder, and I'm gonna hit home so I can see everything, and bird blog, bird images, and that's exactly where I want them to go. So now I've got this rule saved. And let me just double check myself, make sure I've got my images, condition, where it's gonna go. Great. So now I'll close this out and refresh this page. I have this handy dandy rules down here that's gonna appear for me because I have to apply this rule. So now I'm gonna assign a rule on this page. I only have one, so that makes it easy. Move blog images to folder. I'm gonna add it. All right, and this is when you hope the demo gods are on your side. Okay, so I'm gonna make a second blog post. And add new blog post. And I think for this blog post, let me see, what birds do I like? Let's just call it groundbreaking, make it easy for myself. Groundbreaking, and this is going to be an announcement, and then now I still want to upload an image because we want to see if that works. So upload an image, and I'm going to pick this great blue jay that I have. There we go. All right, upload, and see. Great. And you could actually choose the image size, but I'm obnoxious and I love my birds as large as I can get them, so they're going in as they are. Ooh, excuse me. Save. All right, let's see what I got in here. Did I do it right? Ah, it seems I missed a step because, nope. Let's see, where did I go wrong? Bird blog. Oh, little thing I forgot to actually enable that. So let me make sure this is enabled this time around. Okay. So it's a good idea to toggle back and forth and double check. All right, it says enabled, it's enabled here. It applies to subfolders. I'll try that one more time. And this is, of course, all part of the learning process. My folder is getting a little messy, but one more bird. I've got a wealth of bird photos prepared, so. All right, let's hope this is the one that does it right. All right, so there's only 2 images in here, so that's looking good for me. I don't see that in this screen over here anymore. And if I go to this bird images folder, which I've lost by now, there we go. So now this has been automatically moved to that folder. So one of my favorite tricks that I learned, I wish I knew it from day one because I used to get that call probably every week that someone uploaded something right at the top level of the site and things were falling apart and they just didn't know what to do. So content rules, and you can make content rules for all kinds of different triggers and such. So I definitely suggest you go play with that. All right, so now I've got a blog post. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit because it looks a little messy. So I'm gonna add new collection. A collection's a pretty awesome item. It's like a canned Plone query that you can just have run and it's completely through the web. So I'm just gonna call it bird blog posts so I can see the difference. And right here, you get your search terms for what you can search for. Now, you click down, you'll get all kinds of little items and things. I definitely suggest you play with them. The one I use the most is type. And I only want a blog post. So this will pop up with the different types that you have for your website once you do that. And that's why I made the blog post item in particular, is because I can just collect the blog post instead of the news items or other things. Like I'm just looking for one specific type. And that can make it really easy to classify information without having to tag and do anything like complicated searches or such. So I only want the blog post, and that should be enough because they're all in this folder, but you can add several rules. So I could say blog posts in just this folder. I could say blog posts that are only published, and there's lots of options for you to go through. I'm gonna save, and now I've got a page of just blog posts. It doesn't have my images. And I want to set that as a cover or like an index page for something. Place verb, that would be amazing. So I can go ahead and set a display view, and I'll talk a little bit about this more later, but when you have a folder in the HTML days, you would put index.html so people couldn't see that. Adding a default page is basically the same thing, and I'm going to put my bird blog post, which I apparently made twice for some reason. And now I've got my bird blog post. So now we get to the display part. I don't think this looks really great. I'd like it to look a little bit more interesting. And I've got beautiful pictures. So I can go ahead and say, there's different ways I can display this item, and these are built into Plone already. And you can expose more of them. You can build more, but I'll just do all content view. There we go. I've got like a real blog page going here. I'm getting that look now. Okay, so I've done that. I've set the default view. Blog posts are going to need some comments. It's just not going to be the same without it, is it? So let me see. I can actually enable comments on pretty much anything in Plone. So back to my good old site setup. This is where I'm going to start taking advantage of these two views here. So I've got just a post. And there's a couple of places you've got to look first. So when I made this item, I glossed over this, but it already had enabled on it in the behaviors. These are extra behaviors that you can add to an item, allow discussion. So that was already there. I knew that first step was in place for me, so I didn't need to do that again. All right, back to site setup. Now I'm going to go into discussion. I'm going to globally enable comments. So that allows me to be able to have comments in the first place. But don't worry, everything won't get comments right off the bat if you're making your first site. And I'm going to say, I want anonymous comments, and I want people to be able to put in their email because I want to know where they're coming from. And I want to be able to edit these in case somebody says something inappropriate, but I'm not going to moderate those. So now I've got my basic discussion going. Now there's one last step. Back to my favorite content settings again, well, content panel. So you can actually further make adjustments to your content with these content settings. And I'm just gonna name one case for now, but this is just great areas to explore if you haven't been through them in Plone. But right here, I'm gonna pick my blog post, and that's gonna allow me to look at some of my settings for my blog post. Notice that there's no comments allowed on this already. And if I refreshed here, comments wouldn't show up. So this is the last area that you've got to tick off to allow those comments. And while I'm at it, I'm going to just put on version control. It's really nice when you make a mistake on a page and you can go back and fix it later, or see who deleted the entire directory or deleted this entire section out. So I'm going to refresh, and there we go. Now I've got a comment box. That's for me logged in. And I'm going to publish this page because I did allow anonymous content as well. And let's publish the blog folder so I can see that. Open that incognito. And now you'll see name. It's going to require the email and the comment. So I'm getting a lot closer to my blog post now. So now that we've gone into content, I want to go into TinyMCE a little bit because maybe your users want to add a little flair or be able to touch up their content. And TinyMCE is like a standard editor that's used in a lot of different systems right now, but it also has a whole set of customization that you can do on top of that. So over here, I'm going to go to site setup. I'm going to get to TinyMCE, which is the one I can never find. There we go. So down in general. And you've got a whole lot of stuff that you can do here. But the first thing I'm going to do is I want to add some stuff to my toolbar here. So I've got a toolbar and you can see that there's stuff that you can activate in addition to this. I think birds deserve emoticons. That'd be nice. And how about directionality? Different languages want to type from different sets of the page. And I'll check off visual block. And actually, I'm just going to check off a whole bunch of them. Let's see what pops up. And let me save. So not everything is activated, but many times these are already integrated into the Plone menu. So I just activated that insert date time, and now I've got this insert date time block. In case you never want to format your time or something like that. I've got the special character map in case you want to add some special characters and you don't want to find them on the keyboard. But you can also do things like add toolbar buttons. And I'm gonna show you two dangerous ones that I would never, ever, ever, unless a client specifically requested it, let them know existed. Foreground and background color picker. Dangerous territory, but sometimes you just need to make red text red without having to add some CSS or style classes. So I'll save that, start. I'll refresh this side. Yeah, reload. Up, I didn't activate the color picker. And text color. Around background. All right. See, my directionality buttons came up too. Let's see. Where have I gone astray? Layers, colors, text colors, patterns. All right, well, I'll come back to that one. I've got a working copy with that because I must have missed a setting somewhere, but let's try emoticons because I want something new to pop up on this toolbar for me. Okay. Oh, I think I know what it was. Give me 1 second. As I stare intensely into the screen. There we go. So sometimes with TinyMCE, there's stuff built in that's not already activated. So I did activate foreground and background here, but what I didn't do was add my custom plugin. So you see it's already in Plone static. And this is kind of stuff that you'd have to go through the documentation and get a place for where it is. But it really is about discovering where you can do things. And I still didn't get it, but I'll show you a working copy of that later. But I did get my emoticon, so at least I can put cute emoticons on my bird page. Now, moving on, because I got about, what, 15 minutes left? Let's see what I can get through next. Templates. Adding templates to Plone can be really, really great for TinyMCE for people who may want to do some more complex layouts, but can't actually do the text. So I'm gonna add this plugin here for now. And we're gonna come back to how that actually goes later because I don't wanna get too far into theming yet. But I will show you where this pops up. I do have a theme that's loaded in the background of this site that I haven't activated yet. But what you would do is in that plugins menu, there's a template section. And you can add the location to your template. So this is great because you can add it in Diazo or through the web. And as I said, so just keep that one in mind. I'll come back to it later when I get into theming. But let me see. So I want to get into making a front page, because making the front page is usually the thing that we're going to have the most impact or the most visual sense when somebody arrives at our site. So I'm going to activate Mosaic. So in my add-ons panel, when you install various plugins that would usually be installed when you're making the initial site, you can have these add-ons that are available to you to activate. And Mosaic is a cool tool that I really wished I knew from day one. That's probably one of my biggest, it would have been great if I had known about this. So I'm going to add a new page. And I'm going to call it Welcome to the Burb Corner. And I'm just going to hit save right here. Now I talked a little bit about those display views before. Now I've got a new display view called the Mosaic layout. Okay, so now I've got the Mosaic layout. Doesn't look that interesting. Well, why don't I edit it? So now I've got these options. And I'll just pick document because that sounds like where I started. And I'll actually open up the page a bit bigger for this one. All right, so now I've got that, my summary. And I can start putting in some text. We'll get some classic lorem ipsum. I really looked for a burb ipsum and there was none available, so that might be a project for me later. What's even cooler is if you hit layout and customize, you can start changing this page by adding extra things into it. So I'm going to add a rich text box, and you can just drag it and drop it into place. And I'm going to add let's add another one. And I can actually start putting these in different places in space. So I can even drag and drop this line. So I can catch this line. You can go third column. You can go 1/4 column. So you can really kind of customize some of how your page is going to look. I'll get rid of that extra text. And then you can even install different types of tiles that are available or program your own. So I'm going to save this. And now I'm starting to get a more complex layout. So once again, I said I could install a couple extra ones. So I actually have some slider tiles in case I wanted to add some cool images. I'm going to add this advanced static tile. And those should do me good. So now if I edit this again, we're going to get some new tiles. So now I have a slider tile. And everybody loves a huge image at the top of their website. It's nice to have the option. Now this burb image folder is going to come in handy for me because I'm just going to use this photo to add my stuff. And this is what happens when you don't resize your images at all. But now I've got a single image for a slider. And one image looks kind of sad, so I'm going to move some more images in there. Now it's time for this cleanup. And this is the great content editor. I can just copy these, find my folder, and put contents, and I can paste it right back in there. So now I've got my images. Even better, it doesn't break my old images. Plone actually keeps track of that so you know where the stuff is. And now I've got a slider with images. So now I'm actually starting to lay out a page. And with Mosaic, especially if you get into the back-end programming, you can add all kinds of different tiles. You can add different styles and formats. So I'm going to add one more thing here, and I'm just going to say, I got out of it. Center that, make it a header, and I actually want to have that have a dark background color. So now I'm starting to really make myself a unique looking page here and laying out that information. Okay, so I've got about 10 minutes left. Let's see, what's the next fun thing I want to go into? Well, I wouldn't be me if I didn't do something with diazo. So we're gonna skip ahead. So this is like that cooking show when you put the brownies into the oven and then you just pull out something that's a little more crafted on the end. So here's my other bird site. I'll get this on the same link. Oh no, not Plone. And I've already filled out more accounts, information. I put some images for a gallery. I've made a photo contest area. I've got stuff going here. And so Diazo is the theming engine. And this is probably one of my favorite places to play, but had the steepest learning curve, I think, of some of the through the web stuff. So there's this theming panel right here. And right now we're on Barceloneta, which is the Plone's default theme, but I actually kind of prepared one ahead of time. This is actually Plone Theme Business Casual, which I downloaded from the plone.org page. They had a couple there and I made a couple changes. So I'm gonna activate this, and just like that, I've got a whole different theme on my site. And it's nice and easy because I don't have to go into the back end to modify this theme. I can do a lot of this work right here in this panel, right through the web. But what I want it to do is make myself a new gallery. And if you noticed, this gallery has suddenly changed. Wasn't like that a little bit ago. And this is a cool thing too with Diazo. I think it's one. There we go. This is what Plone's content actually looks like, on themed and on style, just bare for the world to see. So this and this are drastically different. And I was able to do that with Diazo. So I've got a rules file here that I prepared ahead of time. And I'm gonna, how's that text size? It's probably a little small. I'll try and zooms everything in. Well, we're gonna have a zoomed in view. And you'll see here that I have this rewrite gallery script. So I'm gonna comment this out so you can kind of see what it looks like without it. So now we're back to our list. And so what I'm doing is there's this area called content entries. And this is my deep dive in the last 10 minutes because you've made it this far with me already. I apologize. But there's if you kind of use an inspector, you can kind of look at what parts of Plone there are. And there's a box in here called entries. So you can kind of see that box that's highlighted. So I'm telling it, replace the content that's coming from Plone. So I'm actually replacing Plone's content on the fly as it's coming to me on this page. Replace this entries box. Now I have to go a little bit. If the section is gallery, so it only replaces this if I'm on the gallery page, the bird gallery page, and that's in the body tag up top. And I'm gonna comment this line out so we can just step through it a little bit. Did I get that too? So I'm gonna have this row image gallery. That's what's gonna replace that now. I broke the theme. Row image. All right, let's see. I think I have an extra. I challenged the gallery gods and now I am paying for it. Oh, forgot that other replace. There we go. There we go. So now you can see that I've gotten rid of that, but if you look into entries, now I have that row image gallery. So that's been replaced in that section. Now this next section is some Xsalt or XSLT, but I like to say Xsalt language that I have that basically says, I'm going to build a new structure, and I'm using an XPath to say for each article. So on that on themed page, which I seem to have closed already, each one of these I happen to know is called an article. There we go. So I'm saying for each article that has an A tag where it says content type image on it. So I'm going to repeat for each one of these in this case. I'm going to build a new box with the image item tag that has this box bootstrap so I can make the layout. And then I'm going to make a new variable called image source. And I'm going to grab this A tag, href tag right here, because I know that doesn't have any sizing on it. It's not like, doesn't have the Plone image handling. I'm going to chop off the end of that string view because I don't need that, because the view page would take me to like a whole page that views the Plone image, and that's not going to look good on the page 20 times. And then I chop that off if it happens to have that view URL. I make a new variable that's clean, and then I make an image tag and put in that new source image tag. And no, this one's just an otherwise, but I didn't use that in that case. So when all that is said and done, it writes me a box of pages. And since this is only that wide, that's why this is the responsive. So that's like a cool thing that you can do with that in general. Another thing that you can do is you can notice I have the bird pointer up there. And that's another thing that I had right here. I'll turn these off. Is that I can replace different sections on my theme that's already built with content from Plone. So as long as I know the content that's called in Plone, I can put it in different places on the page. And that actually, if you get into this and you learn how to do that, is a really powerful thing that you can do, because you can rewrite content on the fly, you can reassign things on the fly, you can change everything. So, all right, I've got 3 more minutes. So let's see what I can put into it. So I did talk about the template gallery before. So on this site, I actually have that up and running. So right here, I have a folder called templates, and it's got this columns.html. And I had showed you earlier how in TinyMCE, I had set up the templates and I assigned where it went to. So now if I come to this page, and this has my foreground and background color. Yes, this is what I've always wanted in life, to be able to pick whatever colors I want at whatever time. But if I go to the insert menu, I have this template and I had to activate that. That's why I had to add that plugin. But now in my dropdown, I have this plugin that's coming straight from my Diazo template. And I can save that. And this is really great if you have HTML that you want people to be able to feel like they're adding stuff in, but all they have to do is kind of go through and edit this content in there, and they can still get the stylings and the frame and the shape of the HTML that's there. And okay, let's see. I think the last thing, I might not have enough time, but I'll start. I got 2 minutes. Another thing that you can do is override templates. So what's happening, mischances and coming up is not what Plone does by default. So if you go into site setup, and this is just me diving really quickly in to show you, there's these view customizations where you can do all the kind of different views for Plone. And if you're in contents, you can actually override them as long as it has the same name. So this is the same template that I've overwritten with what's happening and mischances and coming up. So there's many ways for you to modify content on the fly. There's many ways to customize, and this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg of what you can do. So I hope that was enough to like get you even more interested in Plone, or I hope that you learned something new that you might not have seen before. And then I guess my stream's wrapping up, so I'll be in the gallery with any questions or any comments, feedback, anything you've got. I love talking about Plone.